What's going on, guys? Your boy Jermane'S. Man. Listen, guys, I'm in the mobile studio today again. You already know how we roll in the mobile studio. But um, there's something going on in the space, in the creator space that I have to like weigh my 2 cents in, pretty much. So, you guys see the title. A fellow creator accusing another creator of scamming. So this guy, my dude, Ashton Holman, very talented, creative dude. Um, I want to say he's a digital nomad, not a passport boy. He doesn't claim to be a passport boy. He's a digital nomad. Um, I tune into his channel a lot, and you know, this dude. I was scrolling through YouTube today, and I see this dude, NanaKwaku, alleging that my guy Ashton Holman is scamming people to raise money, and basically he's saying that listen, he's not raising no money for no barbershop down there in Africa, but he's raising money just to survive because Ashton ain't getting enough views, and he's raising money to buy a box and raising money to do all of that nonsense, and just basically lying to his viewers. And we're in scamming season, and my guy Ashton is scamming. So basically that's what NanaKwaku is saying, pretty much. But I just want to say, I don't know, I don't know the dude Ashton. I've been watching him for a while now, but I think he's a very straight up stand up dude as it relates to how he speak and how he like his demeanor. You know what I mean? I've been on his live before, and I see like crazy amount of people pouring in and supporting his movement and supporting his channel, and give donations, live stream on Cash App or whatever it is. I think I was watching a live when he was in Malaysia or something like that, and he got a bunch of donation. But apparently my guy Ashton is running a GoFundMe because he want to set up some barbershop school or something down there in Africa where he is. I think he's in Kenya, and you know he just moved back over there. I've been watching him, as I said, for a while now. This guy been traveling the world, but he just moved back with his girl Z, and apparently they're gonna get married, and you know what I mean. And my guy's making the good moves. I commend him for that. I applaud him for that. He's making some good moves in regards to what he's doing with his life, and he's traveling with his girl, and they're making it work. You know what I mean? My man putting in the work. I like to see when young men putting in some work. What you're doing. Depending what you're doing. He leave the states because he, you know, basically, what I understand from his journey, he leave the states because he didn't like the dating scene here, and he didn't like how women here in the states operate from a dating perspective. So he found what he's looking for, and he's traveled a few different countries, and do his thing, and he settled down with his girl Z now. So, and they trying to make a move. So my thing is, Nana Kwaku, I don't know, I watched you a few times, but I don't know, what your motives are, what your intentions are, and what you bring into the light. But I would like to say that this is just some BS. You know what I mean? And instead of creators coming together and building a community, creators shouldn't be like beefing with each other. Because this dude, he has a lot of insight and stuff. That's Ashton and Nana. You're very talented too. You know what I mean? But instead of like the whole drama stuff and beefing and highlighting each other and ad hominem attacks on each other, it's not right, man. You know what I mean? As I said, I don't know Ashton, and I don't, I never exchange word a word with him in English before, and I don't know the dude, but I think that the dude has some very creative and good ideas that he's trying to bring forth. You know, he's in Africa doing his thing with his girl. According to what Nana is saying, that Ashton is hiding his true intent and scamming his viewers um, for money. And the GoFundMe he's raising money, the GoFundMe account he's raising money from is not for whatever he said it's gonna be for. It's for something totally different. But regardless of that, man, I don't know, but I don't even know how the GoFundMe situation work. If you have to like prove how you prove, if you have to really prove to the people behind GoFundMe and who is, you know, the corporation, that you're gonna use the money for some legitimate intent or not, for you're not gonna misuse the funds. I think you have to do some sort of like um, you have to do some like proven situation. You have to prove that you're gonna use the money for whatever you say you're gonna use it for, and like submit receipts and all of that stuff, and whatever. But I think the dude has some good intentions. But I don't know what Nana is saying. Well, I know what Nana is saying, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. But I think that dude is just making some moves. And Ashton has a lot of subscribers. He has like 160,000 subscribers. And Nana is pretty much saying, dude, you can't. Ashton doesn't have another source of income except from YouTube, and the views that Ashton is pulling in cannot he cannot survive off those views living in Africa, because the only way to survive in Africa is to make money, and you have to make money through some other sources, either by whatever. But Ashton's source is through the means of going live and producing content for people in America to watch. And Nana is saying, listen, man, with those views you're pulling in, you can't be living over there in Africa and traveling like that and going all over the place. And, he's pretty much critiquing Ashton's channel and saying that, yeah, you really have to be pulling off some scam to really make it over there. And the scam now is that GoFundMe account that Ashton set up, which I don't know. I really think that Ashton get decent views, and and to be honest, some of those places he's at, it's not even expensive to live there, man. He could survive like off $10 a day in some of those places, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some places in Africa, Kenya, Namibia, you could survive off very little per day in some of those jurisdictions. So, based on his content, I believe that every 1,000 view is like $4 or $5 based on the content Ashton produces. And say $100 a day will take you a long way in Africa, bro. Trust me. I know that because I've never been to Africa, and I know that because I traveled to Southeast Asia, and I traveled to some place to South America, and I know that your dollar goes a long way in those countries, man, because things are not so expensive. A matter of fact, food is not so expensive. Accommodation is not so expensive. So your dollar will go a really long way. So you saying that the dude ain't pulling in enough views to really live in Africa and travel like that? Well, traveling, yeah. But this dude also have courses too. I don't know how many people sign up for his courses. He has courses on how to be a digital nomad, and how to make money while traveling and how to like really live off the grid. When I said live off the grid, live off the American grid, but operate within the American grid system, which is he's doing his YouTube because most of his views come from here, right, in the States, and he live elsewhere. So I think creators should really come together and figure this out instead of dividing up and getting caught up in personal attacks and or ad hominem attacks on each other, because at the end of the day it doesn't make sense. Well, and I don't even know if these guys are doing it for views neither, so that could be a possibility as well. They probably doing it for views, who knows, man. But I'm not defending Auston, and I'm not um, coming up on his side, but Auston is a dude I really respect and how he does his thing, how he moves. I respect that. I respect that he went back for that young lady back there in Africa, and they're making moves together. The family blessed the union. Well, not the official union because they didn't get married yet, but the girl's family bless and give Auston the okay. Say, okay, all right, that's it. You guys can move on right now. And as a young man, I respect what he did. That's super 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 good what he did. You know what I mean? So, and again, I don't know the back end of their situation, but judging from the outside looking in, I want to say, yeah, that's a very, and I'm just judging him based on his interaction and based on his actions. You know what I mean? Because somebody can say, oh, I do this and I do that, and and tell you a whole bunch of stuff, but actions speak louder than words, and I'm judging him by his actions. And his action looks, he's a man of his words. So his action tells me that. You know what I mean? And you can't trust a person based on how they operate, based on their actions. Now, Nana is saying that he's exposing the scam. So each time Auston make a live stream, first of all, let's back up for a second. Nana is saying that Auston is so desperate that he has to be live streaming for like 7+ hours and doing some crazy live stream because he need that bread. Okay, everybody want to get the bread. All right, so I don't see how relevant that argument is. And Nana is saying that because people are catching on to the scam, Auston is making his live streams members only, so people cannot pick apart any evidence or any thing to say that he's actually trying to scam, or he's not following through on what he promised, or because you could pick apart somebody's story by, I know if they're lying, by going over what they have stated before and connect A to B and 1 to 2 and 3 to 4 and just connect the dots overall. So that's what my guy Nana is saying, that because people are trying to pick apart the story, Auston Holleman now is like, you know what, let me put these live stream and some of these videos on members only so people can really go watch them and see them. Another point is, okay, why would you do that? You still will get, because if it's a good live stream, you could get YouTube AdSense and have ads on the live stream instead of putting them for members only. You know what I mean? So the dude has a point, but at the same time, two things can be true at the same time. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter if he put, he probably want to grow his he's probably strategic and looking at his analytics and saying, okay, I have this much viewers and I have this much live streams and how many people tune into my live streams. Okay, if people really like my live streams and like my videos, it doesn't cost anything. They will still pay a member's fee to go watch my videos. He's probably looking at that and trying to be strategic and trying to manage his content the way how he want to manage it. So by him doing that doesn't really raise a red flag in my books. He could probably doing some content management and studio management and doing whatever he's doing based on his plan and actions and long-term goals. So that doesn't raise a red flag for me. You know what I mean? But overall, though, man, it is not. It is a bad idea. Not to say a bad idea, because controversy sells, and a lot of time people try to tear down each other just to get some views and tear down what another man is doing just to be highlighted and put somebody out there, even though the information might not be true, and even though it might be partially true, or even or whatever. That's what it is now. You tear down people trying to tear you down, or just to get some views and so on and so forth, because controversy sells. But at the same time too, unity is strength. So instead of like tearing down another man, what they're doing, just unite, tap in, produce some content with each other. You understand what I'm saying? Tap in with the dude, tap in with each other. Like, let's get some ideas together to produce some content, because it is a big the platform is big. The YouTube platform is massive. So people can tap in with each other, produce some content, and and take things to the next level, instead of what's happening right now. Because my man Ashton put out a video saying like he's done with people or something like that. I didn't watch it, but I just see the headline. He's saying he's done with people. I don't blame him too. Every man has their breaking point. I'm not saying that's his breaking point, but I don't know, man. But I think that dude is doing his thing. He is probably legit, and he's making some move. I said what I really respected him for was the move he made. The move he made with Z. That's his girl from Africa there, and they're traveling and they're doing their content together. That's dope, dude. That's dope. And over the years watching Ashton, he put me onto some places, without even indirectly. I watch his channel, watch out what to look for when I go to certain places, when I travel to certain places, and how to operate and move in those places. So yeah, I learned some stuff from the dude. Is he a scammer? I don't know. Is he scamming his viewers? I don't know. But all I'm saying is, I don't know if Nana have any evidence of that. Why don't you share some evidence, Nana, and let us know deep down what's going on? Let us share some evidence and let us see where the scamming is coming from. Because if he's doing that, then that's not cool. But I think that overall, I think he's up to something though, in terms of like, because he's a barber. I think he was from Texas, so it makes sense to me. It makes sense, building a school, doing something. Dude's trying to do something, man. So that's it, guys. That's all I have. I just want to weigh in on this situation, my guy Ashton and Nana situation. So let me know what you think, guys. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click the notification bell. That's all. Tag Nana, tag Ashton, and so they could have a resolution to this thing. So tag both of those guys, Nana and Ashton, and see if they want to get the resolution to this and sort this out. Because as I said, unity is strength, man. Coming together is key. And instead of tearing down each other, let's unite and make something big. You know what I mean? So tag both of them guys, and let's hash this out.